I had a very concerning situation quite recently. My sister and I were talking on the phone, and she she was mentioning feeling like she was spinning.
Mm.
And this was back end of December, early January. And I said, Pat, is something wrong? And she really hadn't wanted to share this with anyone. She hadn't really shared what was going on outside, besides with her husband, who couldn't help but see that she was so uncomfortable. And she had shared it with her primary care doc, but he didn't really do anything for her. As it turned out, she finally admitted that she was down below 90 pounds.
Mm.
And she kept going down. And none of the medical community, she didn't know where to turn or what to do. She was confused. And because of that spinning feeling, and so she couldn't concentrate to be able to find her own way out of this. And the medical community, I called a friend who is a professor of gastroenterology at the University of Washington in Seattle. And she said that's very serious. When she has mental confusion and a combination of that with a dramatic weight loss, this is nothing to kid around about. You need to get her down to the University of Michigan. She lives in Michigan, to see they've got a world-class gastro department. Get her down there as soon as possible. So I called to make an appointment, and as soon as possible was almost 3 months away. So I just got on the internet and started looking. I was able to get her an appointment with a local doctor in her community, a local GI doc, and thankfully he was interested and looked into all kinds of things, but nothing was turning up results. And so where now? More on the internet. My son found one article that could affect any of us, about from Harvard, a Harvard Health Center article about postprandial hypotension. And that's just a long way of saying that you have a drop in blood pressure right after eating, and that's very common. The thing to do about that are a lot of water, particularly prior to eating, so that you pluff up your veins, to rest after eating, maybe lie down so that your blood that would normally be in your head and providing you with that energy and clear-headedness is being shunted off to your gut. And as a result, that can make some people feel, and increasingly as we get older, some foggy headedness. And also to eat smaller meals, several during the course of a day instead of a lot all at once. By eating the smaller meals, you're not putting as much demand on the gut to be pulling as much of that blood and oxygen away from the brain, so less likely. So that was one thing she tried. And yes, it did make her feel somewhat better, but it wasn't the whole thing. So I thought, well, maybe she could see a dietitian. And getting an appointment at the University of Michigan with a dietitian was even longer than getting an appointment with the GI doc. So I went online and found a registered dietitian online. We did an online meeting, and this is one of the things about food allergies that I wanted to share, because this seemed to be a turning point for her. We had a meeting about histamine response to foods. And apparently there are various foods that tend to create histamine responses in people for various reasons. She gave us an initial list of of foods that we went away with and looked at the foods to avoid that she said primarily were spinach, nightshades like eggplant and tomato, avocados, cherries, soybeans, and soy products, and yeast extract. And then also avoid fermented foods, pickled foods, foods that spoil quickly, or foods that are aged like aged cheeses, cold cuts, processed meats, preserved ham, bacon, hot dogs, aged sausages, dried and aged meats, cultured dairy products, kombucha, fermented, sauerkraut and pickles and relishes, canned, smoked, or salted fish, vinegar containing condiments. Now that's big. Commercial salad dressings, ketchup, mayo, mustard, hot sauce, barbecue sauce, soy, fish, soy sauce, fish sauce, liquid aminos, coconut aminos, miso, all sorts of, and also leftover anything. Well, that's just about everything that I was eating. That's my refrigerator. Plus shellfish, especially shrimp that haven't been deveined, and fresh, what they call fresh, but thawed fish sold at a supermarket, except individually frozen fillets that are usually fine. Also to limit citrus fruits, berries, stone fruits, papaya, pineapple, and pumpkin seeds. For goodness sakes, my sister didn't really know what to eat, but I did what I know Cheri has been doing for years probably. I started to look at every ingredient and began ordering her foods based on what the ingredients were. And there weren't that many. There were enough. There were plenty, really, when you get past the overwhelmedness of finding all the things that you're used to eating that you can't. It was possible then to find the foods that she could. And as she began, she got down to 82 pounds. But when we found that it worked for her, she has now begun to regain weight. She is within a couple of weeks over 90 pounds and heading up. And she was just eating up a storm and not avoiding foods, because when you have a reaction to foods, you don't want to eat. You're afraid to eat anything, and that's how she felt. She was